I'm standing here with Tim Draper, and tell me the name of the group that you're with.
We are with Treasures in Utah. No, we're very
Treasures in Utah?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are very well-rounded. We do everything from hunting after ghost towns to Spanish explorations in this area, Indian stuff. So we like to do all the above when it comes to history.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are kind of down below where the Mountain Meadows Massacre area is. Is it just?
Yeah, this area right here is actually the monument right here. In fact, this flat area right here is where the wagon trail, or the wagon circle was, where they circled around during the battle. This would have been ground zero for where it all started right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So you were telling me that over here where the bridge is?
Yeah.
That was where they found the first body?
They did, yeah. They ended up constructing this in 1999. They ended up, when they were digging this trench right here, they ended up finding a body right here, and just not too far away from there, about another 30 feet, they found another one. So,
wow.
Yeah, they weren't expecting that.
So the full body?
Yeah, they ended up finding the full skeleton.
On my own research about it, I heard that they just buried the bodies about 2 feet where they had fallen, and animals had come and taken most of them away.
They did, yeah. There was coyotes, there was wolves that came over, and they would dig them up. Like you said, they weren't that far in the ground. They would dig them up, and they would even drag them on, down the road and stuff like that. So
the monument right over here. Is there any bodies buried around that, or is that just in honor of what happened?
Well, we know for sure right here in this flat area that several people, the battle went on for 5 days.
Really?
Yeah, during that 5 days, there were people sporadically killed, I guess you can say, from gunfire and stuff like that. So during that time, it even talks about when they made their circle right there with the wagons, when people were dying, their friends, their family, and stuff like that, they would bury them in that circle. That circle was their stronghold. Okay. That's where they felt safe, and when people were killed, they would bury them right there. So that area right there is definitely a big grave site.
Okay. Well, we want to walk over there and go get some.
Let's do that.
Some stuff. So let's go, you guys.
Okay. Right down here by the river too. This would have been the original stream that came through here that everybody used for drinking water. And,
There's a lot of energy here.
Yeah.
There is.
I've been here at nighttime. There's a couple times we've been here doing our research. We don't want a lot of people to know what we're doing sometimes.
Right.
So we'll come here at nighttime, and I felt the presence here. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, that monument there has been torn down and
Did you hear
rebuilt.
That?
What's that?
I don't know. Did you hear it?
No.
I heard like a...
So there was a missionary who was one of the last people to stay in Arkansas, and a few weeks before they received word that he had been murdered by his then wife's former husband, who had helped in kicking them out. And so
his name was?
Last name was Pratt, and I do not remember the first name.
Okay.
But they felt that these people from Arkansas were representative of that group, and apparently they'd also picked up some people along the way. A group of them, about 11 of them, were from Missouri, and they called themselves the Missouri Wildcats. And they'd been overheard saying in Salt Lake a few weeks prior that they had the gun that shot the guts out of old Joe Smith back in Illinois.
No.
And
Which
so
would have been really
there's a lot
situation.
of right, especially right around that time. So there was a lot of resentment towards these people coming in, and they'd already heard word of who they were before they got
And
down.
they were afraid that they may come in and try and wreak havoc here as well. Where they ran here to be safe and settled.
Yeah.
And these people are coming through, so that would raise a lot of emotion.
Yeah,
you can understand.
Especially the smaller outposts like this, where you're not.
It's funny how
community.
People's words are very powerful and strong, and that's why words we say that's spelling.
No, of course.
Right.
Be careful what you say.
That's where it comes from. Absolutely.
According to the LDS story, they were also saying that same thing that he was talking about this is the gun that killed Joseph Smith.
Thank you, Brandon.
This is the gun that killed Joseph Smith.
Yes.
That actually also happened again in Cedar City, which is only 31 miles away from here. That's where a dispute happened at a general store there. So there probably was some poor choice of words in this case that could have really riled up people.
Stirred up.
Yep.
Well, and the Indians as well, that group of Indians, they were the Paiute Indians,
Yep.
are worried because they are being driven out of where they live.
Yep.
And so everyone's worried.
A lot of things
There's
going
a lot
on.
of emotion going on.
And that's very true. Yep.
So there's 3 stories here.
Yep.
It's going to be really interesting when we do our investigation to see what spirit activity, energy that we pick up on, and hopefully, I really can feel it already. I mean, I couldn't breathe earlier, but they want to tell their story. There are things that they want to say.
It spread from here. This was ground zero, but they actually marched a mile that way. So there were people killed here. There were the men and boys were killed not too far away from here. Another mile down is where the women were shot and killed. So I mean, you got from here a mile down that way of just death, murder, tragic.
I don't know. Maybe it's just a cultural thing. I mean, I can understand men fighting and killing, but why would you kill the women and the children? I think they wanted them to be quiet and not tell what happened, but I just can't imagine
it
this.
does mention that they spared only 17 people, and the 17 people were actually children that were under the age of 6, and they believe that age and younger, the children wouldn't remember the story well enough to tell it later on.
What a tragedy.
Yeah.
So there was 5 days of siege.
Correct.
And so the first couple of days were...
The first couple of days they tried to sneak
surprise
in.
attack.
Yeah.
And then afterwards it was just, we're fighting.
It was more like, you already know what we're doing, we're trying to take you down, and so it was different. Yeah.
So we've got nighttime and daytime.
Yep.
Well, I also had heard that they had said, if you will surrender and come out, you will be safe and we'll let you go. And so they all just, wouldn't that be during the day, and they just packed up their stuff and walked with, and maybe that's when they went over this direction and the women were killed.
Yeah, that was at the time when John D. Lee came in with the white flag, and he said, hey, if you guys surrender, I promise you we'll take you back to Cedar City and we'll sort this whole thing out. We'll talk about it, there won't be any more fighting. That would have been during the day, and that was shortly after when everybody marched to their death, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Probably the time when the women were killed over that way.
Yep.
And so for us to be hearing the residual help, I would be screaming for help, going, we surrender. Don't shoot us.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, that's very interesting. It's just right now at this time, the energy is completely different than when we walked down here before. It's so much lighter, so I think it's the time of day.
Yeah.
It brings on
And that makes sense.
The different energies.
Yeah.
So I believe a little bit later when it gets dark, we'll feel that heavy kind of spirit energy of this is a time when it was very intense.
Yep.
So
And if you ask me, if you can just even picture it back then too, these attacks that were happening sporadically through those 5 days, I'm sure they didn't sleep. They probably didn't eat. They were scared. They didn't know what was going to happen. So yeah, I couldn't even imagine what it felt like.
No, that would be intense energies.
This is where the women and children heard the gunshots, because the men were shot first. This is where they heard the gunshots.
Did they bring the women and children out first?
Yeah.
They separated them, and then they heard the men being killed, the men and the boys.
And they started running for those hills.
I'm sure that's why they started screaming for help and why we have caught some of those sounds. And we're starting to get rain again. Great.
Uh-oh.
So it was right here?
Yep. There's a monument right there.
And that's kind of where... were they massacred here after the men?
Yes, it happened after the men. When they heard the gunshots, they started spreading out more and heading for the hills. And they did have some of the pioneers with them at the time. So the pioneers went running after them, shooting whoever they could. They had to chase after them, and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just sad.
Yeah.